Hey
Oh, there we go.
guys!
Hello.
It works! Well, I want to thank everyone who is joining us live right now. My name's Walisha Morris. I'm a blogger at myfreelancelife.com as well as nerdy30something.wordpress.com. And I'm actually, since it's just the three of us, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and talk about where you blog at and all that good stuff. So go ahead, Isabel, you can start.
All right, well, my name's Isabel. I also go by Izzy. And I just recently started blogging at mygeeksidisshowing.com. And I usually blog, I'm massively into video games. And also, I love reading and TV and movies and pretty much anything. I also love sports, so I'm like an all-around geek, I guess. So right now, I'm really geeked out about the World Cup, especially.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool. You're probably really excited.
Super excited.
It seems like this year it's gotten a lot more attention and hype and all that good stuff.
Well, I think it's because, especially within the scope of the U.S. team is actually pretty decent. And the fact that it's in Brazil, which is mind-boggling. Like, I have friends that are there right now, and I would
Me
just
too.
love to have been there because that is the country to be in for all things World Cup. I mean, it's just has to be spectacular.
I
Um,
know it. I really would like
so
to go for the Olympics, actually. So
that would be cool
that's cool that
too.
you're geeking out about that.
Yeah, I actually just had like I have a little series. It's called Geek Out, and so I write little mini kind of synopsis about certain things. I did an E3 one that I should be concluding this week, and then I just started my World Cup Geek Out. So
Sweet.
yeah, it's good stuff.
That's awesome.
Oh,
So let's see. Hold on just one second.
no worries.
That's it. Uh, I know. It's okay. Sorry. My husband was like, why did you just invite me to this chat?
Oh,
So,
Gwen is at home, so she might be able to do it. Although I think she was live tweeting Teen Wolf,
oh, was she? Okay.
but I think it looks like she's done. She just put like the second time I'm home for an FGB hangout.
Can you invite her? Because I don't think I'm on her circle.
I don't know, maybe. Let me see this.
Let's see. Or maybe um, Amanda could invite her if possible. If not, I'm going to get on and see who is actually following.
All right. I just go ahead and would you like to join? I have no idea how to
Yes, go
join
ahead.
her, but I just tweeted her that if she would like to join to give me a heads up.
Yay! So this is Twitter in action right here. We actually saw someone is watching the chat on Twitter and wants to see if she wants to join us live. So
So that's cool.
this is neat.
I know. Okay.
Well, we'll give it a minute, but then I'll go ahead and get started with the first question, which
Okay.
is probably the easiest question of all, which is what are some of your favorite movies? And these can include movies that are not necessarily geeky related or anything, because I geek out about movies in general. So
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I have a couple of, so I'll vamp for a little bit while we wait to see if Gwen can join
please
us.
do.
So I grew up in the 80s. I'm an 80s child. Early 80s, so that also kind of defines the things that I like. Um, I really, really liked The Princess Bride.
Yes,
Um,
that is a classic movie.
and oh, she said sure. I don't know how to
Okay,
invite
great.
her.
You should be able to actually, there's a little plus sign at the top bar with a little person on it next to the,
Gotcha.
yeah, you can invite her on there.
Okay. Well,
So
let
yeah, I
me.
have an idea as to where you're going now, since you started with The Princess Bride, what your vein of favorite movies is going to be.
But at the same time, like I love that, and then I also loved the original three Star Wars.
Yes.
Had huge issues with the first subsequent three. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and oh, it's not letting me do the adding.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'll keep clicking on it until something happens. Um,
Let's see. I will
so,
also tweet Amanda and let her know that
oh yeah, good
she's on
call on
here.
that. So I really like Star Wars and in the original ones because I think it did have a good, strong female character, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I am really into, obviously, right now, the golden age of comic book adaptation movies.
That is a good
So,
term. It is the golden age. I think you're right.
I mean, there were some really, really tragically horrible ones before the actual brands took stock and were like, no, we own this intellectual property and we're going to make sure it doesn't get, just completely destroyed by other people who just want to put like giant spiders and everything. Um,
Giant spiders have to be in everything. Okay.
it's true. If you look at it, sometimes they're just like, there's no reason for a giant spider to be in it, and then all of a sudden, there's a giant spider. It's the same with like the gratuitous sex scene in certain
Okay.
movies.
No, I
I
understand
think
that.
it's right on there. It's like that one producer that's just like, I love a giant spider. So, I also really like, I've enjoyed the Harry Potter movies.
Yes.
I enjoyed Jurassic Park, although then I read that apparently they had all the dinosaurs depicted incorrectly, or like the
Yeah,
Velociraptor
I think
wasn't
they did.
actually a Velociraptor, but I'm okay with it because for when it came out, that was cutting edge.
It was.
So I'll accept that. Um, Now the movies I've hated.
Yes, that was my next question. Were movies that
I
you've hated?
really hated Jaws, and I'll tell you why. Because I love marine
What?
biology,
Oh, so
and
yeah.
sharks were like my favorite. To this day, sharks are my favorite. I think they're just spectacular creatures. And so I was really pissed off about Jaws. One, because it completely demonizes the shark. I mean, understandably so, but
Yeah, I was
still.
about to say it kind of.
I
Kind
mean,
of
it's a
does.
bit much. And secondly, because it's the wrong type of shark. The
Yes.
stories that that's based off of were more in line with it being a bull shark than a great white. And so that also kind of had me a little bit peeved.
Yes. Are you familiar
But
with the whole issue with the shark not working and that's why the shark wasn't in the movie half the time?
yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean, it's still pretty advanced tech and animatronics for back in the day.
it was.
So that's one of the ones I hate. They also did another one, I think it was Deep Blue or something,
Oh, let's not talk
where
about that
Sam
one.
Jackson gets like
Yes,
they like
yes.
supposedly alter genetically mako sharks, and they're
Yeah,
not even mako sharks. Like even if you genetically modify, they don't look like mako sharks to begin with, which was annoying. I
that was just
did
a bad movie all the way
It
around.
was really bad. I did
Yeah.
appreciate the jump out and the grab of Samuel L. Jackson, but it does again prove the colored people always get killed off the
That is
worst.
right. And but it also disproved that theory too
Because LL
because
Cool
I
J makes it,
LL Cool
right?
J was the last one to live. That's one of the few movies that I've seen where the
So
black
it's
guy
like
lives at the end.
yes and
Yes,
no.
it did. It was I almost said let's not talk about it, but that's what we're here for. But it was so bad, I almost requested you not talk about that movie because it was just terrible.
It
The
was
whole
really bad.
movie was really terrible.
You know what else was really bad? And it was on cable the other night. It's Ryan Reynolds and I think Amy Smart or something is in it. And basically he's been friend zoned
Oh
and he goes like now
yeah.
he's thin and rich or whatever if
Yes.
music and he goes back and he's just like conflicted about the girl who now likes him because he's and it's like the whole movie is basically this girl is this horrible person supposedly because she was nice to two geeks when they were in high school but never reciprocated their niceness with some sort of a sexual or romantic tit for tat.
Right.
Oh, so horrible.
It was really bad.
So
I think I've heard about that one before, so.
it's
Well,
just
let's see.
horrible. It's just
I
so
was
bad.
trying, yeah, I was trying to narrow it down to like top three, but I think you might agree with me on some of these because I was a 90s child. So
Okay.
probably all-time favorite memories, even though I grew up in the 80s as well, probably The Lion King, and that was around 94.
That's good.
Um, and then two romantic comedies that always are on the top of my list, which would be You've Got Mail, which is kind of geeky at the time, obviously, and While You
AOL.
Were
Yep.
Sleeping, yes, with Meg Ryan and Sandra Bullock when they were doing their romantic comedy heyday stuff.
Yes. Those are
So those are
good
probably
things.
like my all-time favorites. But as far as actual geeky ones, definitely Lord of the Rings series. with preferences towards the first and third ones,
Mm-hmm.
because they could be literally standalone movies and be brilliant all by themselves.
Yes.
And I agree with Harry Potter. I was trying to think of my favorite one, and I think that would have to be Goblet of Fire. Um, I loved everything about the Triwizard Tournament and the Yule Ball. And also, I think that was one of the first ones, if not the first Harry Potter, where a student gets killed. So it took like a really deep,
Right, that
serious
wasn't
turn.
already dead.
Yeah, that wasn't already dead, exactly. There were a lot of kids injured, but that was probably the first ones that, Robert Pattinson's character gets killed, I believe, at the end.
Yes.
So that one in general was extremely awesome for me. I've heard the book is pretty detailed and the movie captured like probably the essence of what it was supposed to be about. But I've never finished reading all the books, so that's probably a terrible
Oh.
geek thing to say. But I've not finished reading all of the Harry Potter books.
Well, I
I'm gonna
always
get
watch, if
flamed
I
in a minute.
can, watch the movie. If I haven't already read the series, I'll watch the movie first so I can see it and appreciate it on its own. And
Yes,
then when I read the book, it's like I get the like behind the scenes or director's cut, you know what I mean? And
yes,
then you have all these goodies and you're like, "Ooh, excited that you have this new info," instead of just ticked off the entire time that what you wanted to be in the movie didn't make it.
exactly. So yeah, once someone just mentioned the Ninja Turtle movies from the 80s. Looking back at it now, they may not have been that great, but back then they were pretty incredible.
They were
And
pretty incredible.
I'll definitely bring that one up when we talk about reboots, because
Yes.
that's a big one. So this is hard for me. The ones that I probably hate the most, um, oh, this is tough. I've actually walked out of a couple of movies, and I think it was because of either gratuitous sex or gratuitous violence. And one of them
Hmm.
was this movie called Election, which was actually a really great movie, supposedly with Reese Witherspoon. Absolutely
Oh,
hated it.
yes.
I think I actually walked out of the movie because I hated it so much. I know that sounds really strange, but there was some weird moments in the movie that made me very uncomfortable, so I ended up leaving that movie.
Yeah.
And trying to think of really bad geeky movies that I've seen.
The
Um,
Phantom.
oh,
Not to
that's
step on
kind
your
of one of
toes.
that's kind of one of my guilty pleasures is the Phantom. Because at the time I developed this wild crush on Billy Zane.
Well, I
So
do appreciate they were able to flick someone off without actually flicking someone off
yeah,
on camera. I did appreciate that.
that is a good moment. I forgot about that. There are a lot of bad ones. I was trying to think of a bad geeky movie, and probably the first that comes to mind is Fantastic Four, just the first movie.
You
I
see,
never,
again, just bad.
yeah, I never saw the second two on purpose because I just was not pleased at all with the first one.
I think
I
if
would
you're over
love to
the age of
have,
10,
yeah.
that won't
I
probably
really
do.
want to hear from comic book readers if anyone's watching and is a fan of the Fantastic Four comic series, what they thought of the original movie from 2000 and something with Chris Evans as the Torch, and it was not that great of a movie.
No.
And it had really great actors in it,
It
so
had
it was
so much
very odd.
potential.
It did. It really had every element that it could have been bad, but writing was bad, acting was not that great. Plot actually was pretty good, but it just kind of failed, especially when you think of all the other movies that have been made within the Marvel, especially, series. It
Yeah.
just so pales in comparison to the rest of them. So, let's
Oh,
see.
Green Lantern.
Oh, I never even saw that one.
Missed
You'll ha-
opportunity.
You'll have to tell me why that one was so bad. Just from looking at the previews, I was not happy with how that looked.
Well, the story, like, I'll tell you what it is. You never really, at least I didn't, want to root for the Green Lantern, and that's the whole thing. You're supposed to really like this guy because he's snarky and he's fun, and but he's also serious when he needs to be, and it just seemed like a gratuitous Ryan Reynolds and Blake get together movie. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And we were just talking about this actually, about Ryan Reynolds not being that great of an actor, and so he
But
probably
I
should not
loved
have
his
been.
Deadpool.
Did you like his Deadpool? I was
I
going to ask
did
that.
because he was so demented.
He was
It
pretty
was
demented.
I don't know. I liked his demented. Um, when
Yeah.
they did that one in Wolverine, I was like, that's pretty spot on because that's the kind of ridiculous, psychopathic things that Deadpool might think are funny.
Do you think he belonged in Wolverine? That was a question that we had when we were talking about the Wolverine movies. I don't think he
Mm.
really belonged in that series. I think he probably should have gotten his own movie and left him out of it completely. He was kind of wasted
I
as
don't
a
know who
character.
else they would have used as the replacement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because out of the characters, I mean, yeah, that movie, that particular Wolverine, I had issues with. I think for the larger part, Fox has done a pretty good job of staying true to the source material.
Yeah.
So, amen to that. The third X-Men, I don't even want to talk about. Um,
Yeah, that's another one that we probably shouldn't talk about, but I'll bring
yes,
it up as
movies I hate.
yeah. I
Because
think that's
Bryan
pretty
Singer was
much
like, I'm gonna do Superman instead. And then Superman was really not as good as it should have been.
no.
Like I think my expectations were much higher, and so it was not gonna meet them because I was like, if you're gonna leave the brand, as it were, that has really made you a director that I'm excited about, then damn it, make it be worth something. And yes, it looked pretty, and yes, Kevin Spacey is really good as a creepy
Yes.
loser, but I don't know, it wasn't enough.
It lost a lot of just kind of the energy that I think it had from the 80s, and they tried to somehow recreate that, and it just wasn't possible. It ended up coming off as extremely cheesy.
Yeah, and then the whole kid thing, and you're like, well, why would the
Oh,
kid be all
the kid thing
sickly?
was messed up. Yeah. It
It's
was
like there's not even kryptonite around to like justify him being all like weak and
no.
weird. It was weird. I don't know.
It was very strange. And then that was actually a good lead into my next question, which is some of the biggest things you've done for premieres. And that was one of the biggest things I've done is I made Superman an event. I actually invited like 20 people. We
Oh,
took up
that's
two
just
or three rows
disheartening.
of, I know, and we all got together on a Friday night. And it was fun getting together with them. But yeah, the movie was just kind of eh.
Mhm.
And probably on top of that, the biggest thing I've done is I actually had mono, but my boyfriend at the time had created a Jedi suit for himself and wanted to see the third Star Wars, the third of the prequel, I should say. And so
Right.
I went to a midnight feature with him with mono.
Oh, that's
it
hardcore.
was it was really hardcore, and I don't
I
regret
hope
it.
he appreciated that because that's
He
really
did
hardcore.
appreciate that. He's obviously my ex now, so he didn't appreciate a lot of other things, but he
But at least you
appreciated
got
that
that.
particular moment. I got that. And it was actually a really good experience. I cried watching that movie. And I wasn't as disappointed with it as with the first two and the prequel.
Yes. Well, because then you got Vader.
You have Vader, it was just a lot more emotional, which the other two movies were pretty much dead. I mean, just completely dead. It seemed
Less
like
Jar
everybody
Jar.
was phoning it in.
A
So
lot less Jar Jar. I'm a fan
a
for
lot
less Jar
less
Jar.
Jar Jar, a lot
Like I
less fourth grade
Yeah, it's like I
screenplay.
understand why Jar Jar because it's a marketing tool, but it's like no.
No, the whole thing,
Yeah.
the
The
whole thing
Ewoks
was
I think were much more justifiable than Jar Jar.
oh,
I understand people at the time were really anti-Ewoks because again, it was the same
it's very
device,
similar, very similar.
but at least they were like mini Wookiees,
They
you
were
know?
like mini Wookiees.
And they had a role that I don't know, I felt was a little bit more engaging.
Their role was more important, and they weren't as annoying.
Yeah, but I feel like Jar Jar, maybe it was the dialogue. Maybe it's because he had dialogue.
He had dialogue that ended up
Maybe that
sounding
was the
horribly racist.
problem. If he
Yes.
just like hadn't been able to communicate in English and had been like Chewie or an Ewok, I think I would have been
Yes.
better off because at least it would have been like Jar Jar Jar. I don't know that voice. It was horrible.
Don't do it. Don't
I'm
imitate
not
that
gonna do
voice.
it. I stopped myself halfway through it because I could not commit.
One thing that disappointed me, and I thought about this with my husband before, is that it seemed like the rest of the Gungans were not retarded. The rest of them were actually
It's like
really
why are we
smart,
stuck with the one
and they all
character?
knew how to shoot guns and actually participate in fights and things.
Yeah,
So,
I
like,
have
and I
very mixed
apologize for
feelings.
using
Yeah.
the word retarded, but he actually was acting that way in the movie. Like, I'm not trying to use that word in
Yeah,
vain.
it was like something was quite not right with him. Like so, he was just like on a 5 second delay. I don't know. Something was weird with him.
You know what he feels like? Jar Jar feels like the MMO character that you get, that you have to walk with him and help him grow as a character, but he ends up just being really annoying and stupid, and you're ready to get rid of that quest like almost immediately.
Yes.
He's like the apprentice that just keeps messing things up, and it's supposed to be funny and it's supposed to be cute, and it ends up being really, really awful. So,
What is that the guy who went viral that plays I guess it's Warcraft or something? It's
oh,
Jethro Jenkins or something.
yes, Leroy Jenkins. But see,
He's Leroy Jenkins.
I guess thinking about that now, though, the virality of that whole thing and being a player at the time actually made me really laugh. But if I was in that instance, I probably would have been extremely angry. But
Well, yeah, because it's not happening to you. It's hysterical.
right, it's pretty funny. And
If
I
you're
like
in that team, you're like, oh my god, I hate you.
and I like Gwen's comment. Gwen's comment was, I dressed up as a hipster Sauron with a Bilbo and Frodo to the midnight premiere of the first Hobbit.
That is awesome.
That is really awesome. I need to see a picture of this, Gwen, actually. If you have a photo of hipster Sauron, I'd really appreciate that. I have no idea how you would do that. How would you be a hipster eye? So show that to us if you can and tweet it. My husband is commenting as to Jar Jar. He said he was retarded. They sent him away from the tribe in order to kill him, but he disappointed them again, just like every time before.
By being rescued by Jedi. That's hysterical.
So they just kept sending him away, and he lived, and he's really silly, but it's true.
That's awesome.
They probably were trying to kill him off.
I
I
approve
never,
of his
I never
statement.
even thought about that, actually. It probably was what was happening. He didn't die. He got like did he get medaled as well at some point? Didn't he get
He
awarded
was
at
a
some point
senator,
for
wasn't he? He became
bravery?
a senator. He was in
Did he
the.
become oh God, I forgot about that. So that kind of, mimics our own political system. You have this horribly annoying racist character who ends up becoming a senator. Star Wars.
Yeah. Now, for Star Wars, the reboot, I actually went. We like, of course, I was in high school, so we bought our tickets ahead of time because that was, all the rage. It was the only way you were going to see it opening night, and so we saw the very first showing, the midnight one, and no, it wasn't the very first one. It was the first one in the afternoon because the first one had already the midnight showing sold out. So we actually
Yes.
left school early. Were sick, and we left school early to go to this premiere. And we sat all the way in the back, and there was guys dressed up like Darth Maul because they had all the posters out already, right?
Yes.
So this guy is dressed up like Darth Maul, and he had a double lightsaber.
Oh, that's neat.
And they were like mock fighting in the front, in front of the screen where it's got that open space before the first row. And in that mock fight, his saber broke in two. And he was just like, oh my god! It was awesome. And
Was
so
it
he was just like,
people
he was
cheering and stuff
freaking
after
out,
that?
but he was like, I don't want to say anything. And so now everyone's like, oh my god, this is going to happen. So it was just like waiting for when it would happen. And of course, all of the Darth Maul parts of the first one are just spectacular. Like,
Yes.
it saddened me that we had to kill him so early because he was such a badass.
And I don't think well, we've already talked about the writing, but they maybe gave him like a handful of lines. But yes, the
But it
fight
was like
choreography was amazing. Yeah,
super awesome
it
handful.
was. And
And I
actually,
think
the
we learned
soundtrack was
more.
amazing too. So
Yeah. If we
another
didn't have
plus.
the kid who played Anakin and Jar Jar, I mean, I
kid who
understand that the kid who played Anakin was crucial to the script, but it just made it seem like, why is Padme with this? Like, she's a pedophile, is basically what
She was a
we feel.
pedophile, which
But she
that should have
wasn't
been her
really.
name.
Like, in the story, they're not as far off in ages, but obviously it's
It was
Natalie Portman who
disturbing.
doesn't look 10, So
No.
I felt like it was too much. Like, she did a good job, Padme. I like Padme as a character. I did not like the relationship.
I loved Padme as a character.
I did
Absolutely
not
loved
like the relationship. I was like, please
No,
don't
the
get together.
relationship was horrible.
I was like, I know you have to get together, but please don't get together.
They had absolutely no chemistry.
None. And she didn't have
He,
chemistry with the guy who played Anakin.
yes, Hayden Christensen. Hayden
Hated
Christensen.
none. It was just
Yeah,
like,
none.
I'm gonna say something. It's TV related, but I think we can segue into it slightly. Did
Please.
you ever watch Smallville?
I actually watched only a handful of episodes of Smallville.
Did you
I
ever
never got
see
into the
Lois
series.
Lane's character with Clark? They have no chemistry whatsoever. It felt like that.
See, I don't know if people would agree with you with
I'm just
that.
putting it
People
out.
seem to
I'm just
like
putting it out.
that.
I think Chloe could
Yes,
have
the other
chemistry with a
character.
light pole. All right,
Yes,
like
yeah.
that girl. I mean, anything I've seen her in, she has instant chemistry with whoever the heck is else on the screen. And if not, it's like with you. You feel at home. You're like, wow, I really connect with her. But the character who played Lois Lane was just, I didn't get it. I was like, why are they together? I don't get this. It was the same feeling. That was my
I never
segue and
thought about
tangent.
that.
That was my little tangent into what I felt that was in. So that was one thing they did for a movie. The other one was Snakes on a Plane. I went to go see.
Oh, yeah.
You know why? I had to see the midnight showing of it because you knew everyone who was going to be there was just there for the camp and the fun of it. There was not
Yes.
going to be a single person there that was going to try to take it seriously and ruin it for everybody else. So we got there and it was just a riot. It was a riot. We were just sitting there laughing our heads off every time he said, like
Yes,
Samuel L. Jackson says, is the famous line that they rewrote into the script
yes.
because the fans demanded it because it's just hysterical. Was it Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction in Snakes on a Plane?
Yes.
Um,
It was
so
a pretty horrible movie, but yes, it
it
had
was
moments.
horribly awesome. So now, if I was like, if I'm going to see this movie, this is the only way to see it because it's the only way to truly enjoy it because you're going to be surrounded by other people who understand the ridiculousness of it, and you're not going to be like, I don't understand why they're putting plane in the. No, you don't need that person in that
Did
moment,
you
you know?
ever? I don't know if this was added. I was told it was added. I watched the movie on DVD, and someone mentioned that there's a segment in the movie where a woman puts a snake in a microwave and blows the snake up. And in the DVD, she actually presses a button that says snake on the microwave to blow it up. Now, I don't know if that was
Oh, I
actually
don't
in the
remember.
movie, but it was, I was just
It
like,
doesn't sound like it
wow,
would be.
did they really just put a snake button on the microwave? So that was one of the, I guess, best slash worst moments about that movie.
Yeah, that was one of the awesomely bad movies that I appreciated because I knew going into it it was going to be bad, and I
You
was just
already
like,
had low expectations.
how I had extremely high expectations on how bad it was going to be.
Okay, there you go. That's a more positive way to look at it. You
So I was
had
like,
high expectations that it would be
yes,
awful.
and it fulfilled all of my high expectations about how bad it was going to be.
Oh goodness. That one was pretty bad. All right. So,
I still have no idea how to add poor Gwen.
I know I really want her to be a part
I
of it.
keep clicking that button, but nothing's
Doesn't
working.
doesn't do anything. I'm sorry. It probably is just tied to Amanda's account. I think so.
Yeah, probably.
But
All right.
so we will. This is kind of a slightly serious topic. This is one that actually my husband's gonna probably. He's next to me. Will start being angry about because he doesn't like this topic. But it is the long heard of term called the Bechdel test, which
Yes.
is basically like a movie trope slash phenomenon that shows how women are portrayed in movies. And I'll actually pull it up so that I can read the very definition of the Bechdel test. It has very simple requirements. This kind of is like a not a
Which is why
feminist
it's so
type
sad.
thing, but yeah, it basically just shows gender bias. It's like a very simple way to talk about gender bias. My husband's like, mm-hmm. So it asks whether the work of fiction features at least two women who talk to each other about something other than a man. Um, and that that simple thing, that
At
simple
some point,
sentence,
it just has to happen once. Just the one time.
yes. And many, many movies. There's actually a huge website, and I believe it's just BechdelTest.com. It is, and I'll also tweet it. But it shows very, very many just kind of arguments as to which movies pass and fail and as to why. So, but yeah, it's kind of sad how many movies fail it.
A
And
lot. Like
even
my beloved Princess Bride fails it
yes,
gloriously because there's just three female characters.
and they never.
And the only
talk
time
to each other.
the witch, it's a dream sequence, but all
Yeah.
she's doing is screaming at her that I think she's a whore or something, right?
She's like, boo! 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 So I guess that's it, and she never actually responds to her, so that's not really them
She
talking.
also doesn't have a name.
She doesn't have
The
a name.
heckler doesn't technically have a name, so she doesn't also that would be another problem.
Yes.
But
Yeah. It was, there's many movies that fail it, even some of the beloved ones like Star Wars, and um, I do believe Lord of the Rings passes it. Have to look it up, but there's many great movies that show that. What do you think about the test in general? It almost seems too simplistic, but I also think it's kind of brilliant.
I think its simplicity is why it can be relevant. I think if it was an even more complex, you'd be able to be like, well, maybe because of this, but it's just like, are there female characters with names?
Yes.
I muted myself. Do they, at some point, have a conversation that does not revolve around a guy?
Yes.
Now, I think there should be an asterisk, like a guy is trying to kill them, maybe, fudge it a
Yeah.
bit, but I understand the gist of it all.
Yes.
And it's, like, I don't know, it's a sad truth. I read somewhere, and I'm going to look through this thing very quickly, The Incredibles. I
Yes.
heard somewhere that Incredibles failed it, but I just watched The Incredibles, and I think they might have passed it because there is the point where the mom and Violet are talking,
Right. They're just
and she's
talking.
telling her you need to be strong and believe in yourself.
Yeah.
They're not talking about a guy,
There
unless you're counting
may
that the
have
guy's trying to kill
been,
them.
yeah, there may have actually been like an addition, or someone has put like a question mark by it on that website. Um, because a lot of them are like that. A lot of them are kind of, probably, but I'll actually look it up and see. But that's one of the, really, that's just one of the better animated movies
I am a
of
big
this time period. And
Pixar.
actually, yes, it does have a question mark, so it does pass. It passes all three. Actually, there's a conversation between Edna and Helen talking about costume designs. They're all
Yes,
maybe.
when she's talking about the family and all the things, and
Yes.
yeah.
And the daughter is being spoken to about using her powers. So there's actually several moments where that happens.
And well, I mean, I don't know if this counts because the babysitter's talking about Jack. Jack technically a man, but he's a baby, so I don't know.
He's a baby boy. Maybe
Yeah, yeah,
that probably still counts. I would probably include that actually as passing the Bechdel test. One of
yeah.
the better parts of the movie, actually, that entire sequence with the baby. So, but yeah, and
But he,
the big recent phenomenon that is Frozen is that the entire movie is one big giant Bechdel pass. Um, and I think the movie in general was great, but that does give it an extra special kick is the idea that women are heroines and that it's not always about true love at first sight. So I'll just put
right.
that plug in there for Frozen because it was one of the more recent movies that
Or that to
was,
be happy and have, self-love, you need the validation of a man because
yes,
she's
exactly.
cool with herself. She does not need any other dude to be like, "Hey,
Yes.
I think you're awesome."
Having the dude was an afterthought, which was great.
Yeah. But I did read a couple things. Obviously, I've yet to see it. I don't think if it's out yet.
I
I've
don't
been
think it's out
taking
on
forever.
DVD yet. I'm not sure.
But How to Train Your Dragon 2, I was reading something about a
Oh,
strong
yes.
female character. Like, if
Oh,
you have a female character and you initially have her as being strong, but then you purposely destroy her and make her victimless so that the hero can, become stronger and then overpower her.
yeah, I haven't seen that one yet either. I'm pretty sure that movie passes, the original movie passes, but I have not seen that one yet. I'm not even sure what the reviews are actually for that one.
Yeah. But I was reading about that, like
Was it
the
a,
whole thing. I'm like, we need a better kind of criteria for a strong female character.
yeah, it is a little, it's a little bit flimsy because that should probably not be the only reason why a movie doesn't have gender bias. There should be something else to it. But yeah, it does. The original movie does pass all
Yeah.
three because the two girls are having a conversation about the dragon training and
Yeah.
everything. So I do like the test. I think it's legitimate. I think it's actually a pretty interesting way to look at movies. I think they should come up with one for guys, just for the heck of it. I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know how they would alter that, but obviously most movies tend to have a male bent towards them,
guy-centric.
depending on what they are. Yeah, but yeah, I do think the Bechdel test is pretty awesome.
Did the Avengers pass?
I'm pretty sure it does, but let me check. I don't know for sure.
Because I'm trying to think of one that would happen. Obviously,
Let's see.
Black Widow talks to a bunch of dudes. I don't know if she talks to Maria Hill.
No, it only passes one test. There are more than two named female characters, but they don't interact. One of them is the agent Maria Hill, and the other is Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. They apparently don't talk to each other in the movie,
No, they
which is
don't.
crazy. So,
Well, unless you count the like radio contact with
yes, exactly. When they're
everybody.
talking to everyone, yeah,
Technically, no. Maybe.
yes, that could be it. That's probably about the part where the plane explodes. There probably is some sort of group communication between her and
Yeah.
everyone in the group. Yeah. So I think that's why it doesn't necessarily pass. But
And
also
then
still a
Pepper
great.
doesn't talk to anybody except
Pepper doesn't
for
talk to anybody. I don't think
even
she even.
Coulson
Yeah.
and Tony. But she's right only in the very beginning,
Yeah.
and it's just more of a segue from Iron Man 2 than
It
it
is.
is anything like to explain why the tower, which I get. Yeah, I'm okay with that because Pepper's a strong, and she was a
Yeah.
badass in Iron Man 3, so I'm alright
Oh
with
yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of
Really.
Joss Whedon, so
And he definitely is good at putting together strong female characters.
yeah, I really appreciate. I kind of am annoyed by people who, since the Avengers has come out, keep trying to ship Hawkeye and Black Widow. Like that would
Yes,
be the
I've
only
actually
reason
seen.
that they were nice to each other, not that they keep saving each other's lives and are comrades in war. You
Yes.
know, maybe that's
There's
just me, but
I actually pinned it to my Geeky Girls Pinterest, but it's actually just a picture that appears as though Jeremy Renner is looking down at uh, Scarlett Johansson's chest, and it's just like a really quick moment where it was in between takes. It's one of those, were they involved kind of thing, and it's really funny. But yeah, I do. It is kind of annoying that people seem to think that they can't just have a really tight friendship and not be dating in the movie.
yeah, and it annoyed me more because I don't necessarily think Joss Whedon would have written a story like that based on his previous work.
Yeah. And I think people may have had that issue with Harry and Hermione and Harry Potter, but then I've heard recently that J.K. Rowling kind of wanted them to get together at first and then changed her mind. So,
Right. And that gets me back to my whole friend zone thing.
yeah.
What is wrong with Harry and Hermione just being friends?
I don't understand why people had an issue with it, or why people were just so into changing it.
It's not like Ginny was, this lackey who just did nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
She
she's a
wasn't.
badass in her own right.
Yeah. I think
It's
she was more prominent in the books than in the movies, but she was
yes.
still a pretty important character, and they still had chemistry, and they were still good for each other.
Yeah.
And really, from the beginning, Harry and Hermione have a tight brother-sister relationship.
Because they're the weird ones. They're the outside muggles.
They are. So that's how they bonded. But they did try to tease it there towards the end, and I was like, no, don't do this. Don't
Yeah,
do this
no.
to Ron. But they did it. So,
Right.
but they had to tease at that. So that's another one of those issues that people seem to have, or people can't be friends. Men and women can't be friends in movies.
I think
Even
it's
the cool
ridiculous.
geeky ones that are based on, actual other sources like Harry Potter and things like that.
Where they have already been established to just be
Yes,
friends.
they want to
Like, we
change
need to
that.
change it. It's that
And that
stupid
actually
spider
happened.
syndrome. I'm telling
It,
you.
it is like the spider syndrome. And they did that actually with Ender's Game. Uh, the two characters was pretty much one main female character, and they really tried to kind of push them together in the movie romantically, and it just wasn't happening, and it was really awful that part because in the books they were just comrades and friends. So they tried to put that in the movie, and it was a little bit, you're killing me a little bit. She had a much bigger role in the movie than she actually had in the book, and they were not involved, but they
Who,
tried to make it.
Petra? I didn't watch
Yes,
the movie yet. I'm obsessed with the book series, but I
yes.
haven't
They
watched.
tried to kind of, I won't talk about it, but they kind of try to push her with Ender in kind of almost a romantic way. It never actually gets there, but they They tried to get it there,
Oh,
and I wasn't happy with that. So
I don't like it.
no, it wasn't that great. But I think that's just kind of one of those things people seem to expect in movies. People want to see some kind of natural romance to happen in movies between a man and a woman, or if it's another movie with same-sex couples, they want to see romance of some sort. And I think that's actually interesting thing to talk about. I've heard that the movie Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts and Richard
Oh,
Gere.
not a fan.
It's one of the movies I actually really enjoyed back when it came out. I liked Julia Roberts, in general, and
Yes.
that was her coming out movie.
I
But
like her in it. I don't like the
yes,
movie. Does that make sense?
that does make perfect sense. And I think in the original script, they don't end up together. They go their separate ways, and that's the end of the movie. And they tested it with an audience, and they absolutely hated it. So they ended up having to go back and change it. They had to make them a couple because people wanted it that way, even though it would have been more realistic to maybe keep them apart. But
That's the thing, like, it's like the gratuitous sex scene
yes,
in action movies. I love action movies. Throw throw stuff up, I'm good. Like I enjoyed Michael Bay's Transformers because I knew the cars would look great,
yes,
which they did. Was the script the best? Hells no. Was
no.
I at least pleased that they didn't kill off Optimus Prime like they did in the damn animated movie when I was a child? Yes,
Yeah,
because
people were pretty
that
happy about that.
traumatized
I think
that
it was
traumatized me. I was
traumatizing.
not ready for Optimus Prime's death. So at least, I had that. But it's just, I don't know. It's very frustrating to be like, oh, we're about to die. Let's do it. No, I would like to keep my resources and my energy so we can run away. So I'm not fatigued. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. I accept that I could be absolutely the weird one, and maybe.
No, people
Maybe
do
once the
expect
world
certain things
is
to happen.
saved and we're all like chill, but not in the middle of everything.
Yeah. There's so many movies that seem to try to push that. Like Pacific Rim was another example I can think of where they tried to put together a romance that wasn't really clicking.
Yeah.
They really could have just been friends and ended it there, but they tried
And
to
ended
make
it
it
cool.
into romance. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a subverse for that movie, but that was one of the bigger ones because that's how the movie kind of ended, is them, getting together. The requisite "let's all kiss" at the end since we just got saved part of the
Which
movie.
is very like stereotypical template American movies because you don't see that for example, in Japanese movies. The two lovers never end up together. They have this
It's almost the
tragic
opposite stereotype.
separation where
Yes.
they're like, I will love you from afar or another dimension, It's like if you're prepped and primed for all things American, and then you go and you sit in anime, it's like heart crushing. So you're like, all right, we have 5 minutes left. It's gonna work out, right? And you're no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. But everyone's okay, and that should be, I think, the takeaway that you can be okay, not with the person you love.
No. Oh goodness. So that is also something else we can talk about is
I think
reboots. Did someone join
reboot.
us?
I think they just got invited. So
Oh
Gwen, if you're
great.
looking, check out
Yeah. We'd love
your
to have
stuff.
you.
I think you just got an invite sent out. I didn't do it because I have no permissions, but
There
excited for
may
you.
there are so many that we could talk about. Are there any in particular that you wanted to really go into a long conversation about?
Well, I did want to talk about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because
Okay.
the things that I've been reading make me very upset. One, that they initially were not going to be teenagers. Second,
Right.
they were not going to be mutant. And
Right.
third, everything is wrong about it.
That was
So those are my three
another
cents.
another conversation I've had with my family is that perhaps the way the turtles look is maybe just a hang from when they were supposed to be aliens and they never got a chance to go back and fix it. So now they just look
But they
really
also
weird.
kind of look like the original comics
They do.
because they're kind of scraggly, rough-edged, which is the style in which it was drawn originally. So I'm not so upset about that, but I'm
I
not
think it's still kind of
thrilled.
a wait and see sort of thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they've had to rewrite and first they tell us they're making changes to the brand. It's just like, all right, it's gonna be Superman, but technically it's not Kryptonite that hurts him, and technically technically, he's not really from Krypton. You know, like, you can't be doing that stuff.
Can you imagine them doing that though? Like, we're gonna say rubies affect
Yeah,
Spider-Man or Superman.
exactly.
That's
And really,
that's
he's a
different.
mutant. He's not really.
He's a mutant.
No, he's an alien. You know,
So
like, you
we
can't
switch that
change
around. We
the
make
things that
Superman a
are, I don't
mutant and the
know,
Turtle's an
in the
alien.
freaking title. How are you going to start messing with the things in the literal title? Like, no, I'm sorry.
It was,
It's
yeah.
like Lord of the Rings. Well, it's not technically a ring. It's more of a bracelet. Like, no, I'm sorry. It has to literally be a ring.
It's not technically a ring.
Hey, Gwen's here.
Hello,
In
Gwen.
theory.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey.
Okay.
So glad you could join us for probably what I think is going to be a long conversation about reboots. I know you mentioned Ninja Turtles in Twitter as being one of your favorites from the 80s. So give us a quick take on what you think about this new one with Michael Bay.
Oh man.
That's how she starts it. Oh.
I'm not excited about it, but I'll probably see it.
Isn't that the worst?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be excited about this.
I think they look
Or
too
maybe
much like people.
Yeah. That was the issue we were just talking about, is the way their faces look. Their faces look odd. So I'm hoping, kind of like with Transformers, where the original one I was actually pretty happy about overall as far as the writing and the acting. So I'm hoping all of that ends up still being fine, enough to gloss over the weirdness of how they look. That's what I'm hoping anyway. But, I've never been a huge fan of Megan Fox,
No,
and I
me
don't
neither.
know how she's going to be as April. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of her either.
Yeah. And I think it's odd that there at some point Megan Fox and Michael Bay had some sort of falling out, and yet here she is in another one of his movies. Makes
Yeah,
no
that's
sense.
why I heard that's why she wasn't in this last Transformers movie.
So it's like, what are you guys doing together? Why'd you make up? And you wonder if she's gonna phone it in even more than she phones it in with other movies that she's done. So another one, actually, this is kind of different than just reboots. It's actually about mixing actors together. Um, they're rebooting Fantastic Four, which I'm excited about, because I think they'll end up doing a better job. But thinking back on the original movie, what do you guys think about them portraying multiple characters with the same actor? For instance, Chris Evans is Captain America and he is Torch, which obviously now that's going to be changed, but this seems to be happening a lot lately.
It doesn't bother me actually.
Oh, good.
Um, Mostly because the acting is so good that you can see them as different people.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't see Chris Evans as the Torch when I was watching Captain America. It just feels his own person.
Yeah.
But it also helps that maybe it's in the same, I guess, realm. So Marvel and
Yeah.
Marvel. It would be different maybe if he was a DC character first and then went over. Because then,
Yes.
like, for example, no, sorry, not Chris. Ryan Reynolds doing Green Lantern and then
Right.
supposedly doing Deadpool. It's kind of weird.
That was very strange. We were just talking about how odd that was and how he wasn't really that great. He was good as Deadpool, but not so much great in Green Lantern. So I guess he
I,
needed some sort of redemption. So that was it. Here, try another character. See if you do okay with that one.
I do
The-
like him a lot as Captain America, though.
Oh, he's great. He's really great. I was very skeptical because I've seen his other movies which weren't that great. There was a couple of spoof movies he's been in that were not really well done, but this last one in particular I was extremely happy with, so I'm pretty happy with him being Captain America. The other issue that I had that I want to chat with you guys about is the tale of the double twins, which are Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
oh,
There is
geez.
I didn't know this because I'm not familiar with the characters. I thought I'd heard of them before, but I hadn't, as far as their background and history. But let's talk about that. And if anyone's watching and you don't know,
I think if Magneto's your dad, you're already screwed up.
you're already messed up. But
Like, you go into it like already the deck's stacked against you.
yeah,
It's not going to be a healthy relationship.
so they've somehow managed to pull, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver into the X-Men series.
Yes.
Then they're also trying to put another whole set of actors as Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, which for some reason makes no sense to me. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, what I had heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but someone had said that because Disney has that Marvel franchise, and then Fox has the other.
Right.
Fox doesn't exclusively have the rights to use the word, I guess, mutant, like Disney does, I believe.
Yeah.
So they were called mutants. I'm sorry, other way around.
Yeah.
Because they were called mutants in the Days of Future Past, but they can't be called mutants in the Avengers film.
Right, because I can't use that word, and so their backstory is going to be entirely different. There's not going to be a mention of Magneto. Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're different actors, they're different ages.
Mhm.
So.
And then they did like show kind of a nod to Magneto being Quicksilver's dad in Days of Future Past. I don't know if they're gonna do that in the Avengers or even if they can. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with that.
Because the movies are going to be coming out, I think, not far apart from each other. So I'm pretty upset about that, but I can understand why they chose to do it. I just think they should have come to an agreement and said, "You guys can have the twins. We'll do something else."
Yeah, I kind of feel like them being in the Avengers movie is not doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And it's also a shame because Quicksilver's role in the X-Men movie was just so great.
It was.
That I feel like, they're gonna probably not do as great of a job with the Avengers, but we'll see what happens. That's another one of those wait and see kind of things. But I remember finding out about it and being like, what? They can do this? They can have the same characters in two different movies with different actors? It makes no sense to me, but somehow they've managed to do it.
It's weird.
It is just really weird. So, well, that's another thing that I wanted to discuss was that any other reboots or crossovers that you guys are excited about seeing or not so excited about seeing?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. I was just thinking about that big group cast photo that came out not too long ago.
Very excited because it's J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
I talked about this in our sci-fi hangout a couple weeks ago, but I really respect his use and kind of like homage to the original stories that he's kind of retelling, and so I think it's going to be handled well. And I'm a big fan of Star Wars movies not directed by George Lucas.
And hopefully not written by George Lucas. That's another
I don't
issue
mind
with
him
that.
writing it. I just don't like him directing it.
You know what? That might be the issue then. I've always thought that it was the script being as just really juvenile as it was that was the problem, but it may just be George Lucas as a director.
He wrote
the
first, the three, 4, 5, and 6
true.
he wrote, but
That's
he
true.
wasn't allowed to be the director and the screenwriter for whatever weird guild conflicts they had back in the day. So he had to have his friends direct it. Awesome choice. I'm all for that. And
Better
then
movies.
all of a sudden, he's now able to do it, and he's like, throw the kitchen sink in, and it was just a bit much.
And, actors react differently to directors' direction. That's kind of the whole idea. So you get a dud of a director, and you get actors that seem to not really be caring about what they're talking about. What do you think, Gwen, as far as the new Star Wars reboot? Are you excited about it? Are you more of a Trekkie, so you're kind of torn that he's somehow crossed over?
Well, I actually am considered a late bloomer to nerd and geek stuff. So I only saw Star Wars for the first time maybe like 2 years ago. And
Oh, you poor thing, you only got a digitally remastered version. My heart breaks for you.
You got the crazy additions that were thrown in there.
Yeah, I saw all of them, and I remember being really disturbed by the war ones. The whole Anakin and Padme thing really freaked me out. So with this one, I don't know what to feel because I didn't grow up with the franchise. Like I said, just saw them, so I guess I could be excited about it and not have any high or low expectations. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
Gwen, what order did you see them in, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, that's a good question.
I went in the right order, I guess. The original, and then the new ones.
Yes. Yes.
That was probably a good way of doing it.
Well, because if
Right.
not, the end of 3, there's no, like, surprise when you find out that Luke's dad is Vader, because they already told you that.
Right.
Yeah, showing it in the original,
In the
the new
order it was
order,
released.
yes, is pretty much a letdown. So, and I just saw a tweet here from Amanda also confirming she's not excited about Turtles either. Which also, I mean, that just makes me really sad because,
We
again, it's
should
one of those
be.
things we
We're
should
like,
be
why are they
excited.
taking something from our childhood and ruining it?
Yeah, which is what happened to Transformers in a sense. But again, I felt like the first one was, pretty good. It was just
I
these
remember
later ones.
I remember going to the movie theater to see that 2009 Ninja Turtles, that animated one, or CGI one, or what was it? Yeah, like the computer cartoon
Yeah.
one. And I hated it so much that I walked out.
Did you walk
Probably,
out of it?
probably half, like 30 minutes in, and I asked
Oof.
for my money back, and he asked why, and I said, nostalgic reasons, and he gave me my money back. So I
Well,
don't know.
what?
I don't think I'm gonna go out and see this one right away. I'll probably,
No, no.
give it
What
some
do
time.
you? Well, since you guys are also into turtles, what do you guys think about the current Nick cartoon? I'm actually really happy with the cartoon as it currently is.
I
I
haven't
haven't seen it.
watched it.
Yeah, I
You
haven't
you
seen it.
you actually probably should check it out.
I'm very
I
old
watch
school.
I watch Black Nerd Comedy on YouTube, and he does recaps of every episode. So he makes it kind of convincing. I just haven't sat down to watch him yet.
Yeah, and there was one episode that I watched where they actually throw back to the 80s. They actually show the 80s. They've done like a renewal of the 80s cartoon that they throw into as kind of like a
Mm.
flashback, like an alternate dimension in the cartoon. And really just what I liked about it that I'd wish they do for the movie is that they just managed to get the characters' personalities completely down. They get their
Mm.
relationships completely down, their brotherhood. So I don't know if anybody else out there who's watching agrees with me, but the cartoon in its current form is actually pretty good, and I think should be watched by people who are fans of the show.
I'll
So
definitely have to check it out.
you have to check it out.
The last movie I saw was the live action one in the 90s. I forget when it came out, where
Yes.
Jet Li portrayed one
Yes.
of the, and I was just like, this is awesome. And then it was Jet Li, and it was even cooler. And then I became a
Yes,
Jet Li fan because he's just a badass.
he is.
So
That
that
pretty
was,
much is a good reason to see the movie is Jet Li. So.
yeah. I was just like, what is happening here? He's like a ninja. I was young, so it was even more impressive.
Well, I am coming up. Looks like we're a little bit after 10, so I just wanted to give you guys a chance to give some closing thoughts. I know, Gwen, you just kind of popped in here for a few minutes, but anything else that you want to say or add about movies, geeky or otherwise?
Um, well, I guess like every year that the DVDs came out, I guess I would have um marathons of the Twilight Saga.
Oh goodness.
Really?
I
Can't
do
do
it
this.
every year, even now. It's like a guilty pleasure. So I sit down and I watch the whole franchise, and after that, I do it with Harry Potter, and then after
Okay,
that,
now we're getting better. Now we're getting
yeah, I do Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and the Twilight Saga, and that's just what I do yearly. It's kind of fun, even though I've seen them all and I know everything. It's still fun to watch.
That's actually really cool. And I can't hate on Twilight fans too much.
It's weird because it's not like I'm a huge fan. It's just that they're so bad that they're good, and I can't deny that I get some sense of entertainment value out of it. So I watch it.
It's the snakes on the plane
It is.
phenomenon.
It's kind of like the snakes on the plane thing. You know it's not going to be that great, but you still enjoy it anyway. All
I
right, what
went to
about you,
the,
Isabel? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I went to with a friend who really wanted me to go to like the midnight premiere when the third Twilight book came out, and it was probably the worst experience of my life. There were preteens and like moms everywhere, and I told myself that I would not go to a midnight showing of that movie, and I did not. So I waited until they were on DVD and just bought them all.
That's probably for the best.
You're like, I'll just view this in the safety of my home.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, what about you, Isabel? Any closing thoughts? This was a good conversation.
Well, I really, I love going to a movie and having an experience. And that's why, like I was saying, I really enjoyed going to see Snakes on the Plane when I saw it because the experience was so much fun. Like the audience was great. And sometimes I think you go to movies and the experience can be very much ruined by people in the audience asking
Yep.
stupid questions. And sometimes it could be awesomely enhanced. Like I saw Blade in the movie theater in the quote-unquote African American theater. It really wasn't, but whatever, that's supposedly what it was. And I had such a blast because we were all commenting. It was like science theater.
Yes, yes.
So, I like when you're around a bunch of friends, I enjoy sharing or quote-unquote forcing my friends to like things that I like. And like she was like, you have to see this movie. And you're
Sharing.
like, okay, sure. And I'm like, no, seriously, we're watching this movie like it's happening. So I really think it's great, and I hope that we're going to start seeing a little bit better distribution, not just diversity in gender and culture, but just different formats of writing movies, like what we were talking about earlier, where it's just like, the big happy ending. I think sometimes it doesn't have to be a happy ending, or the definition of happy ending is a little bit, you know, more ambiguous and not
Yeah.
as clear defined. So I really like movies, I guess.
Yeah. I love them. It's funny, I consider myself kind of like a geek slash snob of movies, but there's so many classics that I have yet to see that I just know about. So I feel like I'm not officially owning the title, but and I do absolutely agree, Isabel, that this is the golden age of comic book movies slash superhero movies. They just seem to
Yes.
be getting better and better. And I guess part of that is because some of these previous ones were not that great that
Because
we're coming up with.
they weren't
Yeah.
owned by Marvel, for example,
Yeah.
which now DC thankfully has its own kind of production wing that is
Right.
going to control the brand. So we won't have another Green Lantern.
Yeah, thank God.
But DC's
Debacle.
really good at their animated movies, though. That's
I
Yes.
know,
really
and that's why
weird.
it's so frustrating when they come out with live action that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause you
I
know
was
it's
gonna
in
talk
them.
about the Superman stuff, but we've run out of time. But that I am really concerned about the direction they're going with the Superman movie. So, but we'll figure out if that's gonna be good or not. So,
I have one little kind of takeaways. I don't know how I feel about Ben Affleck being Batman.
yeah, I don't like that they're throwing Wonder Woman and Aquaman in there already, and it's not Justice League time yet.
They should just make it Justice League then.
They just should. I mean, they should just do that. Exactly. That
Or
was what.
just have a Wonder Woman. They should do what they did with the Avengers, Marvel did. They should have a Wonder
Yes.
Woman movie where she doesn't come off psychotic, like her plane makes sense. Um,
Yes.
she's not like, no, really, there is a plane. And they should have a decent Aquaman and then join them all together if they work.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be a train wreck, but I'm not sure.
But
So
hopefully
that's,
not.
yeah, that's one of those reboots that I'm not as excited about, kind of like Turtles. I'm not as excited about this one because really, Man of Steel, I wasn't all that excited about when I saw it. I was just kind of like, it was all right. So,
Yeah.
but thank you,
Bryan Singer.
ladies. I know Brian Singer. Wow. But thank y'all for joining me. This was fun. I love talking. I could go on for like another whole hour,
Yeah,
but
me too.
people need to go to bed. So we probably need to have like a part two at some point.
That would be awesome. We should have a part two.
Quick
Yes.
question: how do you sign up for these? I was trying to find like the list that I saw a while ago.
Yeah, I'll post a link of it. But
Okay,
I think we're going to go ahead and go off broadcast. So everyone have a very good night.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.